has been no shortage of different versions of the United States national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. Over the years, we've seen really great versions and we've seen not so great versions. By the dawn's early light. And you know, people's opinions are all over the place about what they like, what they want the Star-Spangled Banner to sound like. But one of the most popular opinions out there is that possibly the greatest rendition ever was Whitney Houston at the 1991 Super Bowl. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? And in this video, I'm going to show you why I think that is, and how what is basically a pretty simple reharmonization of the tune can have such a huge impact on what the tune actually sounds like. So for me, there's two big reasons why this version is so commonly referred to as the greatest rendition ever. Number one, obviously, Whitney Houston's amazing voice, which the world misses, no doubt. But there's another thing at play here, and something that almost never gets talked about, and that is the arrangement. The orchestral arrangement of this version of the Star-Spangled Banner was written by John Clayton. John Clayton is a jazz bass player and a composer and an arranger. He's one of the greats, without a doubt. There are some key things that John did with this arrangement that really put a mark on it that made it unlike any other arrangement anybody had ever heard. And in theory terms, it's actually not all that complicated. He does what's called a reharmonization of the tune, which is basically when you take the melody of a given tune and instead of using the conventional chords that were written for it, you substitute them out with your own. Now, it doesn't mean you have to change every single chord, but some of the key places where you would expect maybe a 1 chord, you might hear instead a 4 chord. Simple things like that. Now, reharmonization can be an extremely complex process, and sometimes people even use it as an exercise to practice writing crazy harmonies and super dissonant things, but that's not what John did here. He wrote an extremely tasteful, simple reharmonization that just struck a chord almost difficult to listen to without wanting to tear up a little bit. It's just so powerful. So we're gonna go through it step by step and actually show what he did, how he did it, and what the choices were that wound up giving Whitney a platform to perform on and would ultimately result in one of the greatest versions of this song ever recorded. The first thing is that the national anthem is normally in 3/4. And the first thing that John Clayton did was he switched it to 4/4. Which seems like a small thing, and it is a small thing, but it does make a difference and it gives it a unique kind of sound and pace. Now, what I just played is the national anthem in 4/4, but with the original chords. So let's start to see how John Clayton changed those chords to create a completely unique sound. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what So for the first line, he actually hasn't changed anything, which I think is actually a really great way to start because it's setting the stage that, hey, this is going to be something that you recognize. It's not going to be incredibly different. It's not going to be all whacked out with crazy dissonant harmony. This is the national anthem that you know, that you recognize, and that's what it's going to be. Whose broad strides and bright stars. So the very first thing that we notice about this sort of second, I guess you could call it a second verse, it's like the second A section, is that the dynamics came down. We started out strong, but now we're creating this shift in volume and intensity where it's much quieter, the instrumentation changes, we're now utilizing the string section much more. Again, small details, but they make a huge difference. And here's where we start getting into some really, really cool harmony. Whose broad strides and bright stars through the perilous fight. Whose broad stripes and bright stars. Whose broad stripes and bright stars. my God, these chords are just unbelievable. So we start out with the regular, it kind of starts out on the one chord or the root, or, you know, the chord that you're expecting to hear here. Whose broad stripes and bright stars. But here, everything changes. Where you would originally expect to go, whose broad stripes and bright stars, right to the minor 6, this F minor chord. Instead, we go, whose broad stripes and bright stars, stars. We're kind of using this sort of A flat augmented sound, and the strings have this beautiful inner melody to resolve it finally to the chord that you're sort of expecting to hear. But then we go immediately back into something new again. Through the perilous fight, where you think you're gonna hear through the perilous fight. Instead, we go through the What? We're still on this one on the root, but now we've changed it into a suspended chord. I'm sorry. The chords are so simple. This is what I'm saying. Like, these chords are so simple, but just the fact that they're slightly different than what we're used to hearing, and the beautiful way that they interact with the melody. I mean, check this out. First of all, the choice to go there to the bass first, which sets up the next chord. Here, Ram parts is the major 7th of this D flat major 7th chord, where you're normally expecting to hear just the one chord, which, fine, that sounds great, but it's kind of boring in comparison. Oh, the ramparts we watched. Or the ramparts we watched. Woo! Oh my God. Also, Whitney Houston's break there between chest voice and head voice to get to that top note. Or the ram. I don't or the ram. Nope. Or the ramparts we watched were so carelessly. So it ends the whole phrase back to the conventional harmonic place. One of the things that's so great about this is that we started conventional, we worked our way out a little bit, and then we kind of circled back around to it. And that really helps to keep it grounded. So while we're introducing all these new sounds that your ear's not expecting to hear, but they're so beautiful that when you do hear them, you're caught off guard, but in such a positive way that it just has that impact where you're just like, oh, that sounds so good. And that yet we come back to the place where you're now still familiar with where we are. That way you're not lost at all. It's really brilliant writing. It's so good. It just makes you like, you can't even, just so beautiful. And the ease with which she hits those high notes, just like, doesn't strain at all. It's like it's effortless, completely effortless. And you combine that with these altered chords, which let's talk about what they are right now. But I'm just like, oh my God, every time I hear that, it's like you start coming up into the throat a little bit. It's just gonna well up. Oh, sorry. I know, I'm getting nuts. This is like 100% music nerd shit. So I think that the first line of this, "and the rocket's red glare," is one of the most powerful chord choices of the piece, because first of all, where traditionally we would start, "and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there." that's the original, right? So the harmony is very simple, and yet John Clayton takes it and just blows our minds like this. And the rock. So right there we start on the 5th in the bass note, which is important because we're going to drop off that 5th and slide down to that D flat major 7th chord again, which was so impactful in the beginning. And to service that high note that Whitney is just belting out like it's nothing, where instead of using that 1 chord, we're dropping to the 4. What? And the rocket's red glare, which makes the melody note the 9th of the chord instead of the 5th of the root chord. It's the 9th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Beautiful chord, and especially when you're not expecting it right there. And it just, the whole thing, it just gives it this almost crying beauty. The bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our friend was still there. Oh man, so okay. We went to that 4 chord, but now what are we going to do? The bombs bursting in air, we're just going to leave it right there on the 4, but we're going to make it minor. The bombs bursting in air. Now we're setting up the resolution of this section, which is going to be F minor. So if we're setting up the resolution, you could look at it as just a 5-1. Or if you want to throw the 2 in front of that. So that's like a minor 2-5-1 leading to F minor. So what John does here, he uses the 2, but it's more like a suspended chord here because we're using the 5th as a bass note, yet we're still kind of using that 2 chord. We're just not using the G as the bass note. So really simple. I mean, you can call it a few different things, I'm sure, but that's basically what's going on. It's more or less a 2-5-1 leading to F minor. Gave proof through the night. That's another beautiful resolution right there. Just using this. Just a C7 sus chord resolving to a C dominant. Very, very, very simple. Very effective. And the resolution to the F minor is not just straight F minor, but he uses that major 7th sound. So minor with a major 7, F minor major 7. From there, it's just a simple setup for the final section. And again, with this finale in the beginning of it, we are right back to the traditional harmony of this piece, which, like I mentioned before, really helps to keep the piece grounded, and I think it's what makes it feel so familiar, so recognizable, even though we've introduced these other things that nobody's heard before, and these other reharmonizations of different sections, we're still coming back to the original harmony. That's a big deal, and I think it's brilliant, brilliant writing. Come on. It's, oh man, that will never get old. If you want to feel patriotic for 3 minutes, just go watch that video, because it just never, I mean, not even to feel patriotic, like just sheer to be blown away by an incredibly moving performance of a powerful, powerful piece. But I'd love to know, let me know in the comments, is this your favorite version ever? Is there another one that you like better? Let me know in the comments below. Guys, if you haven't subscribed already and you'd like to, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit the bell notifications if you want to know when I post, because YouTube has a tendency to not tell people that. Let me know if there's other music that you'd like me to check out and take apart for you guys and kind of go through what exactly is happening that makes it sound so good. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.